Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Why do you wear that?
You think it's weird?
Kinda.
Well, normal faces are weird too, you know? The way they're smooth, 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 and then, you know, all bumpy and holes. I mean, what are eyes like? It's like a science fiction movie. Don't get me started on lips. Like the edges of a very serious wound.
That's true. But your head is still sort of intimidating.
Well, underneath, I'm giving you a welcoming smile.
Frank is a very unusual film.
We start the film with John, who's a frustrated singer-songwriter with hopes of becoming a rock and roll star.
Who has aspirations to be famous, to be adored maybe above his station.
We follow him through the film. It starts as a comedy, but I think it ends up with something much more poignant and a little bit darker than it immediately sets out.
It's a fairy tale, I suppose, first and foremost, and that's the way we always try to think about it as we were working through the sound process on the film. It's very much set in the real world, but it is a story that's set slightly to the left of maybe our usual earthed reality. But at the heart of it, you're looking at human experiences, which has this great backdrop of live music and recorded music and eccentric personalities. So the fairy tale aspect of it is just simple ideas that would normally restrict reality, maybe don't exist as stringently in the world we're presented in the film.
It's essentially a very indescribable film. What made it so enjoyable was the fact that it was just like nothing else.
I think Lenny's ambition with this film was to have everything as authentic as possible, and it is. It's true to the live performances and the performances that the actors gave on set.
What was kind of exciting about Frank is that we were involved very early in the process. Myself and Steve had just finished on What Richard Did, and I think we finished that in May 2012. Steve mixed it and I was cutting the sound on it. Just off the back of that, Lenny was in the late stages of pre-production on Frank, and I think he knew that it was a challenging film for its own sound reasons. So we got involved very early and started reading it and discovered that indeed it was a kind of different film sound-wise, with some of the challenges being like the main character, Frank, wears a papier-mâché head for the entire film.
One of the unique challenges with Frank has to do with the position and the importance of music to the story, to the reality that we're in, and to the film. And one of the amazing things when you look at this film is that obviously, as is the nature of filmmaking, when you watch a band play a song, it's not one take. They have to do it numerous times from numerous different angles to capture different vibes and feels and looks and whatever else might happen on set. And yet these actors had managed to learn these songs in such a way that feels seamless on the screen and feels real. Again, it's testament to the planning and the approach that went into the film.
From a musical point of view, Frank threw up a number of challenges, particularly on location. For Neil, again, he was wearing several hats. Not only was he trying to capture the dialogue and the sound that a sound recordist would traditionally have to look after, he was also recording multi-track band recordings that we really wanted to keep as far as possible, and we achieved that in the final mix of the film.
Here it is, my most likable song ever. Coca-Cola, lipstick ring, go down.
In pre-production, you know, it comes up that our main character, Frank, is wearing this massive papier-mâché head, and we thought at one stage, you know, well, sync is never going to be an issue with this character, so we can put whatever we want into this mouth because we never see the mouth moving, so sync isn't an issue. But in fact, I think Nathan said it very early on in his cutting room, even when they tried to put different lines into Michael Fassbender's performance, it just didn't work because so much of the character is communicated not just by what he's saying, but the physicality of his performance. So it turns out that even when you start putting different lines from different takes or different scenes in that performance, it didn't work. When we get to ADR, we need to have the head. Michael came in and performed his ADR back with the head on 6 months later, and it was interesting to be on an ADR stage with a man with a 2-foot head.
Our process from sound point of view began by getting sent the script and having a read of it. And from that, you start making a list of things you'd like to record. You start trying to figure out if there's special locations that while they're filming might be possible for you to visit. So we had a couple of really fortunate circumstances available to us as they were filming. One of them was that we got to visit the main Irish location.
And myself and Steve went up and did some field recordings up there in Vetno.
Prior to us going up there, we had been through the script a number of times and made quite extensive lists of sounds we thought would be interesting to capture. We recorded every door. We recorded room tone in every room. At the far end of the process, it meant that every time I hit a location, I knew that I had an air from that location that I could immediately put in and see how it felt. I knew I had a door recording of the door we were seeing open or close. So it really formed a great foundation for the effects. We were always trying to ground it very much in a reality with this idea of keeping the sound live and present and allowing those ambiences live and breathe and become part of the spectrum of the film.
Right from the get-go, we were creating a production effects library. So, I mean, this was material that we took from the location recordings, which could help both the sound effects editor and the production track. So by the time we got to the edit, we actually had quite a substantial library of material.
As we got into the sound post proper period of Frank, the crew is relatively small. We're all working out of the same building. We are quite close to where the cutting room is still beginning to do its final tweaks on the film.
Obviously, when we're editing in the cutting room, like, you're always making choices. You're constantly making choices about what sounds should be featured and what might not be featured. And the tracks in this film particularly got very busy sometimes, but in a way, a lot of storytelling was being done.
There were a couple of sequences, montage sequences particularly in the film, that had quite a bit of sound to take in for the audience. And, you know, some of them would stand up to several viewings, and I think you could get something different from them each time. The key for us, though, was to try and get the main detail through.
We have voiceover playing, we have the band playing, we have production dialogue happening, we have effects, story points. It was a challenging part of the mix to just create this weave.
So it was a matter of trying to find a balance. We spent quite a bit of time on those sequences. We more or less had to weave through the sound as opposed to having the voiceover sitting on top of the song, sitting on top of the production dialogue. It was a matter of trying to find a balance for everything to come through.
It was one of the magic things about this film is that there's those musical montages that just are doing so much and are just both joyful to watch, joyful to work on, stand up to multiple viewings. But it's that depth in the textures that we aim to create. And I'd like to think we did create in the film.
One of the great things about working on a film like Frank is that when the film lands with us in post, it's all there on the screen. Lenny and Nathan have spent a long time editing this film so that it works. The performances were all there because you've got great actors performing a really well-developed script, which has then been shot really well and cut really well. So the challenge becomes, what can we do with the sound that helps to tell this story? What can we do with the sound that enhances what's already there on the screen? But we're not trying to fix anything. And that's a really lovely position to be in with a film.
Don,
Yeah?
the head.
Smells like sausages.
He never takes it off.
Never.
No, never.
He sleeps in it.
Yep.
What about eating?
He sucks liquid food through a straw that he funnels up under the neckline. Occasionally solids, but it's not encouraged.
What kind of liquid food?
Grow nut. It's like a supplement.
He must have a very bushy beard.
Not necessarily.
How does he clean his teeth?
Look, John, you're just gonna have to go with this.